afternoon and welcome. I am Sachin and I handle marketing for Southeast Asia. And thank you so much for joining us today at Growth Masterclass on best practices for boosting email engagement. I can see we have a lot of people joining us today. Thank you so much. And they're joining across Southeast Asia and Australia. So in order to deep dive into email engagement, we have divided this masterclass into two segments of 30 minutes each. First segment is a 30 minutes discussion between our three industry experts. And in the second segment, our expert Arijeet Rana will deep dive into how to get your email to land in the inbox. So let's begin with our first segment where I have three experts with me who are going to share their valuable experience with us. We have Patricia Lim, Digital Marketing Manager at CIMB Bank Philippines. Raymund Villanueva, Director and Head QR Ecosystems at PayMaya Philippines. And my dear colleague Arijeet Rana, Growth Manager Southeast Asia at MoEngage. I request my speakers to introduce themselves briefly. Patricia, we'll begin with you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us this afternoon. My name is Patricia Lim. I'm the Digital Marketing Manager for CIMB Bank Philippines. I've been with CIMB Bank for almost 3 years. My background is mostly composed of working with startups. Previously, I've also worked in e-commerce and a digital advertising agency.
Thank you, Patricia. Raymund, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So Raymund Villanueva. I'm currently Director and Business Head of PayMaya. Right now, a little bit of a background. I am a performance marketing at original, role. And I've been running, performance marketing here in the Philippines and also in the US. So I ran Gap's global digital marketing for a while. And also I was part of Yahoo when they were still there. And right now I'm with PayMaya in Southeast Asia. So look, very excited to bring some ideas coming from both the US and Southeast Asia here.
That's great. Thank you, Raymond. Arijeet, please go ahead.
Thanks, Sachin. And thanks, Patricia and Raymond, for joining the session today. My name is Arijeet. I handle our growth in Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, and Australia. So when I talk about growth, I basically how to set up the market, the go-to-marketing strategies, what has to be catered into the market to the clients there. So those are the things I look after. I've been at MoEngage for nearly 2 years and have been working in the Southeast Asian market approximately the same time. Yeah. Thank you. Back to you, Sachin.
Thank you, Arijeet. I'd like to begin with a provocative statement made by Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook. She famously said that email is going away. But we all know email continues to provide the best ROI. Why do you think email has sustained itself as one of the drivers of growth? Patricia, your thoughts on this?
Well, in CIMB, email is a huge driver behind our digital customer engagement strategy. We feel that it's a more direct and personal way of reaching our existing customers. It also proves to be a good representation of legitimacy because we send emails to people who are already familiar with our brand, and we're also able to personalize the way we speak to each customer. At the same time, because we already have a customer list, we already have a captured market that's available for us to communicate with. So it's easier for us to segment our customer base however we want based on certain common attributes and customize our messaging for these segments.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. Raymond, why do you think email has sustained itself as one of the drivers of growth?
Yeah, so there's now a flurry of push channels out there. SMS, instant notifications, push notifications, social media notifications. There's just a flurry of messaging out there, but outside of instant messaging, email remains to be one of those channels that people actively read. And I think that's one of the key insights there. Not all push notifications are equal. Some are read and paid attention to. And I think email is one of those bastions of people actually read email, especially if it's targeted well, if the subject line is precise. And these active reading really provides that additional push of things being extra effective. So it really is one of the key notifications or key pushes that everyone should take notice on, providing the biggest bang for your buck. As you mentioned, it's not just the amount of people that you can target, but also more the effectivity of that channel being used.
Great insights, Raymond. Thank you. Arijeet, what are your views on this?
I actually think email can capture and convey more. So as Raymond was saying, right, the push and the other channels are snippets. They just say a one line or a two line or an image or ask you to click on it. What an email actually does is it captures so much more. There's more information to be shared. There's a more thought, there's a bigger thought process involved in creating an email. So users actually feel it's a more personalized experience, and that's why it's probably stayed relevant. Yeah.
Thank you, Arijeet. Now that we know email is an extremely important channel, but what makes it successful? So I'm curious to understand what are the key ingredients of a smart email marketing strategy today? Raymond, we'll go with you. What are the key ingredients of a smart email marketing strategy today?
All right. So the first thing is like segmentation. I think, everybody who is, within the digital marketing space, segmentation will always be key. And we could talk about it more a little bit, but I want to go into kind of like what I feel the key ingredients are. The second one is triggered timing. I think this is one of the most, sought after, strategies in email and any push notifications is the timing that these people or these customers will receive that notification or that message, etc. But the last one is actually quite unique because it engages you in a more creative way. The rapidly changing language in the subject lines is for me one of the more critical and important parts. Yes, we can get technology to do segmentation automatically, or even on a hard way, we can do timings using triggers. But the rapidly changing subject line language is one of the more critical parts. What I've seen so far in the last couple of, 6 months, is really emojis coming into subject lines. And I know this is, for some people, it comes in naturally already, but for some marketers and some other regions, they're just, not putting these emojis. At the end of the day, email is a messaging. It's a messaging platform. So you have to start talking to these people the way their language is being spoken to now. And I think that's those three, giant key ingredients for me at a very high level are some of the insights that we've been using for a smart email marketing strategy today.
Great words, Raymond. Thank you so much. Patricia, according to you, what are the key ingredients of a smart email marketing strategy?
For me, it's mainly three things: personalization, segmentation, and contextualization. So personalization, like I mentioned earlier, it still remains to be a key best practice to reach out and engage with your customers. It gives off a sense of legitimacy and also helps soften the messaging within your email, especially when you do something as simple as addressing your customer by their first name. Segmentation, meaning segment your customers based on certain common attributes, like what Raymond said. For example, in our case, we use certain data points like frequency of transaction, size, length of a relationship with the bank, etc. There are many data points that you can use to group your customer base, and this is helpful for you to also be able to send them more curated content. Which leads me to my last point, which is on contextualization. Having a one-size-fits-all strategy for messaging does not always work. So that's why you need to segment your customers and customize the messaging based on the status of their relationship with your brand. So for example, whether they are new to your brand, have been dormant for a while, or have been an active and engaged customer since day one.
Fabulous insights, Patricia. Thank you so much. Arijeet, you talk to several marketers across Southeast Asia. What are your insights on this?
I think a lot of marketers, I think most of the main points are covered here in terms of personalization, contextualization as to what you're exactly sending, and segmentation, understanding does a segment even cater to emails. I think one of the most important things I see in Southeast Asia is, does the market need emails? Do people even read the emails? So you have to divide your segments into, say, categories where there are certain email readers, non-email readers. So defining those things really become important over there. Just understanding if you have a user segment which needs email. Are you a brand which needs email? So there are a lot of these questions which brands need to ask themselves. And if the answer is yes, they need emails, then understanding which is the segment which needs emails. Personalization, when we talk about personalization, right now, people just talk, say, in terms of just personalizing by the username or by the localization, but I don't think that's enough. You have to also understand the category of that user. So when it comes to a bank, understanding what kind of a credit card the user uses. So simultaneously, you can recommend offers to that person. So on and so forth. Personalization has to be probably be even more deeper, and understanding which user base interacts with email. So those are the 2-3 things I think really, really important there. Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you, Arijeet. Raymond, I had a curious thought. Brands today are increasingly moving towards a multi-channel marketing strategy where email is one of the channels. Can you tell us how marketers should think of email in combination with other channels? Where should they leverage it and where should they dial it down?
Yeah, so for me, besides the segmentation, personalization that we keep talking about, the flurry of messaging and marketing that every customer is receiving is really is just not cutting the clutter anymore. There's just so many messages. And I think that's what's important that I wanted to tell everybody today. That single impression is no longer enough. And for me, how marketers should think about, email in combination with other channels is making sure that that single customer, segmented correctly, triggered at the right time, receives a very similar message in all channels that you can interact with this customer. And I think, before the battle was on timing, right? Sending, timely emails and segmentation. I think right now there should be a focus on synchronization of the messages across all channels. I think that's one of the critical paths to make sure that things become a lot more effective. And I think that's one of the key things that, us in PayMaya were really striving towards, is making sure that when we target a specific user, whether it's automated or whether we're using AI to make sure that we're segmenting automatically, the synchronization of the messaging that this person receives at any single time is more or less the same, so that that single impression on different channels will have a higher impact.
Golden words, Raymond, golden words. Thank you so much. Patricia, I come to you now. As a bank, you obviously send a range of emails to your customers, from new products and services to account updates, security instructions, etc. Can you tell us a bit about your email strategy? What are the emails you send and to whom? And what kind of emails drive high open rates and what kind does not?
Great question. Our usual mix of emails range from informational to educational and promotional topics. I know that promos actually tend to kind of have a bad reputation because some people see them as spammy. But emails are actually one of our top sources in terms of leads generation, especially for promotions. One thing that we've noticed in the past few months, and also what we've learned by working with MoEngage, is that certain subject lines, for example, that elicit certain emotional responses tend to work in our favor. So for example, one of them is fascination. For example, are you eligible for this kind of rebate? Find out now. Education is also a very good topic. So for example, here's everything you need to know about insurance or interest rates. Lastly, exclusivity is also a type of subject line that tends to work in our favor. So for example, you've been pre-selected for this certain product. In our case, emails that are left unopened are usually those with subject lines that use spammy language or language that tries to promise too much. So for example, grow your savings instantly. But I think ultimately, the key is to always test, and learn. I know it's something that has been said so many times before, but I can't stress enough the importance of constantly testing your copy and your creatives. Each brand is unique. Your relationship with your customers is unique. And so it's important that you're able to continuously test, learn, and of course, apply your learnings on a regular basis.
Brilliant insights, Patricia. I think test is a mantra of today. Thank you so much. Arijeet, let's talk about metrics. What are the key email engagement metrics one should track to determine the success of email strategy beyond open rates and click rates? Also, from a frequency point of view, how often should consumers be hearing from the brand?
To be honest, the latter question would be the best for Patricia and Raymond, but I'll try my best to answer that. So I think the first part, apart from open click rates, before we even go there, the first thing we need to know is deliverability. Are emails even landing in inbox or not? So we do deliver it, and a lot of our email providers give us delivered reports, right? How many emails have been sent, but we need to know how many are actually going to the inbox, because we are putting in a lot of effort creating that email, creating that segmentation, doing the personalization, and there is a ROI and a cost involved in creating this email. And if that email lands in the spam, then there is no sense. You did not talk to your user, you did not engage your user, and you probably lost a customer and lost a sale as well. So I think that's the first thing people should look at. Another very interesting metric I have looked at is click analysis. Yeah. So we define a lot of URL and links within the email, right? So a bank can probably put in a credit card offer or a lending offer or a top-up offer in the email. You need to know how many people are clicking on what, and what are these content blocks, and which content blocks are getting you the higher CTRs. So even within an email, you can actually do a click analysis and understand which part of email is working the best, and also probably accordingly optimize next time for that segment what kind of content blocks to use and what kind of content blocks to avoid, to create higher open rates and also higher click analysis within the email. So yeah, that is one of the things you can look at. And the latter part of the question, when it comes to optimization, I think it depends from each and every brand. So say if you're a Gas or a Gap, as Raymund was working with, you have 3 to 4 kind of campaigns you run. One is your major campaign, which is like a hero campaign. So maybe once a month you send the email, what's new. You send generic emails on what's on discount every week. So that's 1 email a week on discounting to tell your customers what you can get off. And so usually we'll see 1 to 2 campaigns a week and 1 hero campaign in a month, like 1 big campaign in a month. So I would say 6 to 7 emailers a month per user on average for an e-commerce but for a banking client, I think a lot of users don't want to see a lot of email engagement as well. So if someone's taken a loan, they don't want to see that loan reminders coming again and again, right? So over there, probably the email campaigns have to be a little lesser. So that's how I look at it. So say 4 to 5 emails a month for a bank, much more for an e-commerce client. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for the insights, Arijeet. This brings me to the most important concept, which has already been mentioned today, segmentation. Raymund, I come to you for this. One of the key ways to drive engagement is, of course, segmentation. Segmented emails are known to have at least 14% higher open rates because they increase relevance. What do you think are the segmentation strategies that brands should absolutely be deploying today?
Great, great question. And I think that's, I don't want to say a cop-out, so I'll answer it as directly as possible. The simplest, most basic segmentation that we used and we still use in every organization that I've been with, demographic, current relationship with your brand, and how recent the last interaction would be. For me, these 3 angles for segmentation really, tries to continue that conversation. And I think that's a really critical piece of how people should look at email. Email is not the strategy. Being able to talk to your consumers or to talk to your constituents is really the strategy here. So how do you interact with them? How do you talk to them is the critical part. For me, the way we've done it is that, before we segment using demographic and interests, but right now we use demographic and interests to really power the creative or the content that we're using. We then use the current relationship with the brand. How deep do they know about your brand? How deep in the funnel are they? As the main reasons to push the email. And then the recent last transaction, the triggers, really activates that segmentation. I get it that it kind of gives you a certain level of segmentation that people are not using. But I do feel that, what I've learned in e-commerce, having these 3 views in terms of segmentation really adds to what you guys are trying to do. So all of those things, demographic, interest, and personal data, how deep your relationship and, last transaction purchase data, really provides this segmentation strategy that evolves. The way we do it is we create scores, right? Obviously, people smarter than me, we have statisticians, but also we have technologies that create these scores for us to be able to then do an active segmentation or an evolving segmentation. I think that's where people should end up in. But for the lack of that, I think basic segmentation by providing scores, you can actually do it with the data that you currently have with your users.
Great. Thank you so much, Raymund. To continue on segmentation, Patricia, can you give us examples of segmentation strategies you deploy at CIMB Bank? What data do you factor, and how do you segment your audience?
Great question. I see that one of our attendees has asked a similar question as well. I hope this answers it. We usually group based on certain common attributes. So in our case, for example, frequency of transactions, app activity, length of relationship with the bank, level of engagement, how engaged are they with our app and our bank in general. Using these kinds of data points, we then segment customers based on our assumptions of their needs and wants and where they are in their financial journey. Are they just starting out with their savings? Have they been saving with us for quite some time? Have they not engaged with us for quite some time already? Because ultimately what we as a brand wants is we want to offer our customers products and services that are most relevant to our customers' needs, communicated in such a way that is contextualized based on their current relationship or level of engagement with us. I think so far this kind of strategy has proven to be leading us towards the right direction. So far, we've had month-to-month open rates for our emails at 105 index versus industry average.
Great. Thank you so much, Patricia. I think there's a question here. I'll just read that out. How to analyze the effectiveness of our email blast to a prospect or existing customer? Are there any tools for it? Patricia, would you like to take this?
Well, I think especially if you are a young organization or a young business that's just starting out, don't discount trying to test and increase in terms of metrics or open rates and click-through rates. These are still very important metrics for your email strategy because they are the first two interactions that the customer is going to have with your brand once they receive your email. And also just to add, one thing I noticed with a lot of brands is that before you start with any type of test or campaign, you also need to lay out a couple of things first. One is, what is your business objective? What is it that you want to learn from sending this email campaign? Is it you want to increase open rates, or do you want to test the level of engagement of a customer when it comes to this specific promo? Second, what is your definition of success? A lot of people talk about metrics like conversion rates, but conversion can mean different things to different businesses. So you have to be able to define what is a conversion for you. Is it app install, an app open, a leads generation, or an application?
Interesting. We just ran a poll and we've got our response as well. So we ran a poll on which of the following email segmentation strategies do you use to build intelligent user lists, and most of the people have chosen demographic data, and second highest is purchase data. Interesting. Arijeet, thank you so much, Patricia, for answering the question. Arijeet, I have to ask you this. You work closely with a range of consumer brands. In your experience, what are some of the effective ways in which you have seen brands leverage personalization, which goes beyond name or location personalization?
Sure. So one of my personal favorite, one of the emails I actually read is Netflix, to be honest, right? And one of the most beautiful things they do is they send you this recommendation email on a Friday around 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. So they assume that you're getting done with your business day and the business week, and you may just find a recommendation for you, which you may end up watching on a Saturday or a Sunday. And obviously the recommendation engine is, yes, world known, and people obviously fall for that trap and end up spending hours and hours on Netflix. But this email is very, very interesting because it comes on on everyone's personalized time zone. So they send it obviously across the world to their Netflix users, and they send it around that 5:30 to 6:37 p.m. bracket which is the right time when most people are switching off the laptops and just browsing through and they see the email and then they end up watching something. And apparently the click-through rate of that email is 19.2%. So which is very, very high for any email campaign. Another personal favorite, again, it's a big brand, is Amazon. It knows what kind of subject line to send you. So, I probably have looked at the iPhone 12. They'll directly send you the subject line, not only saying that the iPhone 12 is there, they'll also talk about the experience with iPhone 12. So it'll be very, very catchy and you'll end up clicking on that email. So even though you may not end up buying it because you probably have the older iPhone, but they'll still make you fall for that bait and end up making you click on it. So I think recommendation, personalizing, and timing, the timing strategies these brands have are very, very good and very, very interesting, and something I personally really like.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Arijeet. Now, I would be remiss if I did not talk about content. Patricia, as we know, content is a key ingredient for email nurturing. The more targeted and valuable the content, the better it is. Do you have some strategies or experiments you do to identify the right kind of content for your audience? Give us a peek into this process.
Well, at CIMB, one of our key values is we want to enable Filipinos to reach their life goals by helping them make better and smarter choices about their finances. So one of the key topics for the emails, the types of emails that we send, are about financial education or financial tips and tricks. So one of the experiments that we're doing this year is to identify key segments within our customer base and introduce them different topics of financial literacy. The topics range from basic financial terms, for example, what is interest rate and how does it work for your savings, to more advanced topics like here's how you can start building an emergency fund. So with these types of experiments, we are able to determine what kinds of topics are most relevant across different segments within our customer base. So what's good about this is it allows us also to provide our customers with curated content that is more relevant to them.
Great. Thank you so much, Patricia. Although we're running out of time, I have one last question for everyone. So is there any brand apart from your own that you think does an amazing job at email marketing? Which one and why? Raymund, we'll begin with you.
Yeah, so if anyone is looking into email, I would always recommend e-commerce sites. E-commerce has had direct experience learning from their direct mail strategies, and they carried every segmentation strategy, including timing, including everything that we're talking about. From the snail mail, direct mail strategy, they carried it over to e-commerce and their email strategy. So I would say most e-commerce, practices are so advanced in their segmentation, including location, timing, etc., and all of those things, that when you watch over their email strategy, you can learn a lot. So the way we tested out before is I would subscribe to an email, and then my fiance would subscribe to an email, and we would compare what messages we get. And I think that's really a cheat sheet of how you can learn email strategies. And the best example I would say is that we see a stark difference when it's in e-commerce sites.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Raymond. Patricia, what do you think?
My answer is exactly the same as Raymond's. E-commerce brands, hands down. Their emails are highly personalized. They remind you about items you've probably forgotten to check out of your cart or added on your wish list. And it shows products that are already similar or related to what you viewed before. And this is something that I think is very smart, especially because it removes a lot of the noise and the clutter from your typical, promo email experience, right? So it's just sending you relevant suggestions based on your purchase history or even your browsing history. Yeah. So 11/11 is coming up, and my credit cards are shaking as we speak. Yeah. So I think e-commerce brands really have a very effective email strategy.
Definitely. And Arijeet, what do you think?
I think I already shared, right? So obviously e-commerce, as everyone said, is the king. I think they created recommendation as something which wasn't there earlier. And obviously OTTs, like I'm a big fan of what Netflix has already done in terms of recommendation. I don't think any brand has gone there yet, and they know how to capture you and keep you involved again and again. So yeah, so OTTs and e-commerce, yes.
Thank you, Arijeet. I think I have one question from the audience. I just read that out. Do you also segment those who have churned out or have canceled the subscriptions? Have you had any successful experience winning back lost customers? How did you do it? Raymond, I think this would be good for you.
Yeah, so obviously that's something that you don't want your brand to have, but definitely you do need to say a goodbye email. So we've tried it out in e-commerce a whole lot more. People who haven't engaged with us for more than 90 days, etc., and we consider them churned in that point of view. I would say just keep at it, but at a less frequency. Normally, they would come back when the timing is a little bit better. But if they unsubscribe, forget it. But for me, it's keeping the conversation ongoing, reminding them, because sooner or later their scenarios might change. So we usually have a good experience winning back lost customers by keeping the frequency a little bit lower. Sometimes we do it monthly, and then the next one is once every 3 months. So I wouldn't say, eliminate them from sending emails. I would say put them in another bucket of, churned. And I think once their life improvement or once the fit to the brand is a little bit closer, at least you're there, and they sometimes do come back. We've seen that as a successful program.
Raymond, I had a quick question for you there. So when you send these emails to your inactive users, is it in the form of surveys to capture as to why aren't they active? Like, just asking you.
Yeah. So that's one of the strategies that we do. Obviously, it's a sneaky way of keeping them engaged. But normally it's something that, hey, there's something new with a brand. Here's our brand campaign, or here's something that's new that's happening that's quite exciting. I would say the hero messages would be the critical path in there. But the last part is also, I think it's the frequency. Sometimes people churn just because of the frequency, or just it's not a fit towards their lifestyle. So I would say that is the quick point of view. Surveys would always work as part of the strategies of the emails, as part of the rotation, but it's not the only one that we send.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Raymond, and thank you, Arjun, for the question. In the interest of time, I appreciate all the questions. We will get back to you in writing later. With this, we come to the end of the first segment. My deepest gratitude to Raymond and Patricia for making time and sharing great insights with our audience. Thank you very, very much. Now, our expert Arijeet Rana will take us through how to get your email to land in the inbox. Arijeet, over to you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. We are going to do a session on email deliverability. And the aim of the session is to help you make your emails land in your inbox, which is the biggest problems with email. So one of the big questions we should ask ourselves as a marketer is the campaigns we are running, are they even landing in the inbox or not? So we're going to talk about email deliverability, and I know a lot of you would have questions. How is it different from email delivery, delivered emails versus email deliverability? So that is something we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss the issues with why your emails are not going into your inbox. And then finally, we're going to try to figure out some answers on how we can ensure that end up in your inbox. Cool. So I'm going to start from the basics of why you need an email program. So I'm sure this is something which most of you would know. Emails help you talk with your customers, engage your customers. You can create more content in an email and engage with your customers in parallel to the other formats like push notifications, SMSs, and others. People read emails, they get to know about the brand, they get to know about new updates you want to share us. What is the biggest problem with emails? They don't get delivered. So, and where do they go? they go to your spam folder or the junk box folder. Spam is something which a lot of marketers know is where emails go to die. I know it's an extreme word, but that's exactly what happens. 85% people don't open their spam inbox even once a month. So some lucky marketers whose emails have gone into the spam inbox, there are 15% people on earth who do open it once a month and do check it out. But at the end of the day, an email in a spam box is of no use to anyone. And finally, the most important thing here is talking about the difference between delivery and deliverability. So when we use an email tool, we get these receipts of, or we get this data on how many emails are delivered. So we may run a campaign. We may run a campaign, say, targeting 100 users, and we see our email delivered is around 98%. What that basically means is that the email was sent to that person. But what it does not guarantee is that that email land in the inbox or the other folders like spam, or even did it land within the inbox in the different folders like promotions, updates, announcements, or critical folder. So that is actually taken care of by deliverability. So deliverability tells you how many emails actually landed in your inbox and is the right measure to measure your email campaigns by. One of the bigger problems is none of the internet service provider provides you the exact information on how many of your emails landed in the inbox. But we can obviously find ways, and we can do things in order to ensure that our deliverability is as high as it can be. So on the screen, you can see is another example of what I shared earlier as to what is the difference between a delivery rate and a deliverability rate. These are just commonly accepted facts around the world about emails. We've obviously seen and talked a lot about attention span of users. So you roughly have 8 seconds to get the user on board. We're sending around 306 billion emails and received. So we're sending around 306 billion emails every day in 2020. It's expected to increase by another 16 billion by 2024. Also, very interesting figure here. One of the most important figures is that 70% actually are marketing emails. So basically, 70% of the marketing effort which is going into these, I would say, a lot of the marketing effort which is going into these emails is actually not generating any ROI, and a lot of the money is actually going to waste because these emails are not landing in your inbox. So now we're going to talk about how you can understand your deliverability. So there are 3 to 4 things which can help you understand what your deliverability is like. The first thing is you need to check how healthy your domain and IP reputation is. It's very, very important to understand the benefit of a healthy IP reputation and how it can impact your deliverability. The other part is you can actually do a back analysis from your open click rates. So if you see a higher open rate or a higher click rate, you can totally understand that this is also a reason why there is, so this actually tells you that there is higher deliverability. So if there's a 20% open rate or 15 to 20% open rate, you can assume more than 85 to 90% of your emails are actually getting delivered in the inbox, which is resulting in this higher open rate. A lesser open rate will also indirectly tell you that there is lesser deliverability. And finally, there are third-party sources like eData Source, Return Path, and 250OK, which actually tell you what exactly is your inbox placement data like. So they will tell you what kind of emails you ran in the past 1 month, landed in the inbox, how many of those emails are actually landing every month. So those are some of the kind of figures which these third-party agencies can help you with. So this is one of the graphs of domain reputation, how how your increasing domain reputation actually impacts the emails delivered and the click-through rates. So if you can see here from 3rd to 24th May, our conversion rates have gone up. So you can clearly see when the domain reputation was lower in the earlier part of May, the conversion rates were around 0.5%. When the domain reputation has actually gone up, you can actually see the rates have increased, the conversion rates 1.7%. One of the bigger reasons here is actually the deliverability has increased. So if you keep your domain reputation high enough, you will see higher click-through rates, higher conversion rates, and finally, you will avoid a lot of emails going into your spam. So this is more data on some of your sending domains and how the spam versus the inbox rates matter here. So these are some of the third-party agency data which we have picked up and I've shown you here. So now I actually come to the most important point. How do we get your emails to land in the inbox? So we've already covered what deliverability is, what kind of measures can impact deliverability, how you can track your deliverability. Now we're going to talk about how to ensure that that campaign and that email you're creating does land in the user inbox, and you're able to get you're able to get more ROI from the email campaign you're running. So some of the best practices to email deliverability we're going to be discussing today are around a basic authentication, what kind of collection methods you should have in getting your segments ready, why segmentation is important, sunsetting, how to create relevant content for those audiences so that you reduce you increase your user engagement, which allows you more deliverability, your reputation goes higher. So we're going to talk about some of these things. And also I'm going to show you a few of the things like segmentation, how you can create a proper segment, and how you can create relevant and personalized content on our email dashboard itself to give you a glimpse of what all you can do with your marketing automation tools. So the first thing I'm going to start with is sender authentication. I think it's a basic tick for any email marketer. So what sender authentication basically means is you let the internet service provider like a Gmail or a Yahoo know that you're not a spammer trying to sell something wrong to their customers. So Gmail and other ISPs want to protect their customers from spam email or fishy email. So to avoid that, they do authentication tests. The authentication tests are in the form of a sender policy framework, domain keys identified email, and a DMARC. So these are some of the important things you can follow to at least get these basic ticks in place so that you don't fail sender authentication. If you fail sender authentication, all your emails will end up going to spam. So this is one of the basics for any email marketer to start with. So as I probably explained earlier, how this affects email deliverability, emails go to spam. You may also be specifically cited as dangerous. So we see a lot of these messages, even from brands we actually use every day, that they may go to the spam, and this message on this email being dangerous may also pop up. So these are some of the things we see. Another very important thing is clean user collection methods. So a lot of times on our websites and apps, we ask our users to sign up or share information with us. The ideal way is telling the user why are you taking that email information from them. So say you have a pop-up saying, why are you leaving the website? Let us know more about you so we can send you a newsletter. In that case, you're indirectly saying it, that you're capturing that email ID of that user to send them an email or a newsletter to keep them updated about your brand. But if you indirectly make them sign up and they're not aware that their user info is going to be used for emails, then it may end up being bad for you. The other thing is, do not buy third-party data. So a lot of companies buy third-party data, which does affect because the problem is the third-party data is not exactly the people you may want to approach or send emails to. They may not be the right people for your brand. And how this affects your deliverability is a lot of these users will be invalid users. A lot of these users will unsubscribe or report your emails as spam. And as soon as a user reports an email as spam, your reputation actually goes low. So again, some of the do's and don'ts I've already discussed here, that keep it clean, keep your acquisition methods totally safe. Please don't purchase lists. I know a lot of brands do, but avoid it as much as you can, because most of those users are probably not relevant for you. Another thing which we're seeing in recent time a lot is legal compliances. Follow all the laws. So we see GDPR, we see Canada's anti-spam legislation. Vietnam has come with a recent law on emails and SMSs and the best practices to follow there. So please ensure you're following the laws in place. If you don't follow it, again, all your emails are gonna be going into the spam folder, and you may face fines from the legal authorities as well over there. So another important thing which we talked in the last session, which can help you with deliverability, is sending emails to the audience which actually needs that email. So if you're sending a marketing email about a male jeans, and you end up sending that to the female segment as well, that actually doesn't make sense. So you need to ensure your segment is correct when you're creating that marketing campaign. So I'll quickly show you on a dashboard how easy it is to create a segment. So just give me a second here. So you're creating an email on a dashboard, you can name the campaign. So I'll just say a hello campaign. Here is where you can create a segment. You can go as deep as you want. So I can say I want to look at people who probably open the app or website, say 4 times in the past 45 days. You can add a filter saying you only want to look at people, I will say their app version is particular so-and-so. Let's say for this, for example, I will add another filter saying the person has probably looked a particular product. So 3 times, 45 days. And you can actually define the product those people actually looked at as well. So I'll say product is shoes. So your campaign, you're creating a campaign to recommend shoes to different users. So here, I'll just say shoes. So you can go as deep as you want. You can just easily create your segments. You can save your segments, but you only create the campaign for a particular segment to avoid the campaign going fishy. So that's one thing you can do. Optimal send frequency. Understand when are the users more likely to respond to your emails. So that is something you can totally do. So this is one thing you can practice. Another thing is a lot of companies allow you to do automated segmentation based on, say, a RFM analysis. So RFM analysis is basically understanding all your users and putting them into different categories. So this is again an example which I'll show you on our dashboard itself. So just give me a second. So RFM analysis is basically based on 3 parts: recency, frequency, monetary. So recency is basically how often when did the person last come, how often the person comes, and monetary is what is the value the person is generating. So on the basis of these 3, you can bracket your customers into these different segments. And what you can do is, since you know, and we've actually named these segments. So a price sensitive is basically users who are coming to your website or app or using your brand but are not purchasing. So they're looking at products but they're not buying them. So in order to retarget these people, you can just probably just directly go here and click on campaign, create an email campaign. So in this case, this is a personalized segment, and you didn't have to create a segment on your own. This is automatically told you what segment this is, and also indirectly, you know what kind of a campaign to create, which is personalized for this segment. So that's one thing you can do. You can do proper segmentation through an RFM analysis. You can also create your RFM dashboards through Tableau and others. Now, one of the other, and I think this is one of the very, very important things, is sunsetting. So sunsetting is basically how to keep your user list clean. So say if you have a lot of inactive users, you should totally remove them from your mailing list. If they're in your mailing list and you're sending them emails and they're not clicking on them, your reputation actually goes down. One of the things we have seen is the ISPs actually convert older inactive addresses to spam traps. So without a policy in this place, again, your list quality will degrade. Another thing they do is the ISPs deactivate an account if your email is not opened in 1 year. So those things are also in place by some of the email providers, and you need to avoid it. So you should keep cleaning your email list. You should also have an automated removal of your bad users. So any of your hard bounces, any spam complaints, unsubscribes should be acted upon and should be followed upon. As soon as a user unsubscribes, please don't ever send them an email again, and actually remove them out of the list. And this is something you can automatically do. And here is a glimpse from our dashboard wherein we automatically remove the unsubscribes and the users who complain, the converted users. So sunsetting, again, very, very important. Finally, this is something a lot of marketers are already doing, creating relevant content. So relevant content can be in the form of first creating the relevant segment, creating the right segment for your users, and then within the segment, creating the right content. So understanding what that user is like, personalizing the subject line, personalizing the first name, personalizing according to the location. So those are some of the things you can do. But please ensure that the subject line of the email is compelling so that people open it. And that is one example which we see in a lot of OTT players who know how to get you to click on that email, because that email is actually personalized according to what you have watched earlier or seen earlier. Again, something a lot of e-commerce players do. They know what you saw on their website and they retarget you by showing the same thing on the email, probably saying, hey, you saw this product, why don't open it now? We probably have a 15% discount on the same. Another very important thing to note here is the emails you send should be rendered properly in all devices. Now, there are a lot of mobile players. Most people use emails to read. Most people use mobile devices to read their emails, and there are a lot of different mobile companies. So that is something you should check on. How does the email look on each of these devices? You should test out the email at least on 3 to 4 devices before sending it out. And also the email should be readable. So the content should not be all over the place. It should be an easy read. It should be in place so that the visual effect is also good and the person is able to click on the email itself. These are some of the other things you can do: personalizing your brand name, you also ensuring that the attention span, since we talked about the attention span being 8 seconds, that the brand logo is right there, so that the person knows it's come from you. If there's an offer you're sending, it should be right there. You can put a countdown timer. A lot of people use countdown timers to let the person know that if you're not able to apply for this offer within 15 minutes, within 10 days or 9 days, this offer would expire. So those kind of things you can include. You can personalize it by social media links, also the person's phone numbers, asking them if you're reachable on that and we can contact them. So those are some of the other things you can do. Finally, I'm going to show you something on our email builder, which is very interesting. This is something a lot of users have started doing. So this is our email builder. As I talked about personalizing subject lines. So you can actually just personalize it by any kind of user attribute. I'll just say, for example, I'll just say first name here. You can also add fallbacks. You can add your CC, BCC, attachments. You can add an email address, a reply to email address. You can add variations. So A/B testing is one more interesting thing you should do to get the most out of your email campaigns. Localization. So understanding where your people are coming from and what geography are they coming from. So you can localize by their geography. You can localize by their age or other user attributes as well. So this is the email builder. You can personalize it by multi ways. So you can add text, images, buttons. You can add dynamic content, which is personalized for each and every user. Even the text can be personalized for each and every user. But one thing I really want to highlight is we allow you actually to personalize your roles. So what we can do is we can create an e-commerce campaign, for example, for users, recommending them the clothes they should buy. And what we can do on our email builder is within the email, we can do segmentation. So we can add display conditions wherein we will show one part of the email only to the male users and another part of the email only to the female users. What this does is it does not, you don't have to create 2 to 3 different emails for different segments. You can do the same within one segment. So I'll just say, I want to show this row only to the male users we have. And I'll say the other row is something I only want to show to the women users. So this is a higher form of personalization wherein not only you have created a personalized segment to retarget, but within that segment, you are creating different minor segments and personalizing the email for those segments. I'll quickly show you how the preview looks like. So now here, if we want to see how the email looks for women, this is how the email is going to look for all the women users who get our email. You can also see how it looks on mobile. It's very easy to do. And something very simple for men. So this is how the email is going to look for the male users. Now, what you've done is you've avoided creating 2 to 3 different emails for different segments. Plus, within the same segmentation, you've created mini segments and also done a higher level of personalization. So this is dynamic product rows. So you can add personalization on row level as well. So another interesting thing, a lot of marketing tools allow you to do this. So you can totally try that. So I talked about dynamic product rows. There's something called dynamic personalized content. So we also allow you to add content blocks. So a content block can be on the basis of what did the person last add to cart, or what kind of page did the person last visit, and you can personalize that email with content saying, hey, you say in case of a bank, you can say, hey, you looked at the Visa credit card, why not apply for it now? In case of an e-commerce person, you can say, hey, you looked at the new iPhone range, why don't you buy them now? So you can personalize emails by what people actually saw or added to their carts or looked at on your app or website. Another thing, I think one of the last things you should do is you should always monitor your sends as to what kind of volumes you're working with. So if one day you're sending, say, around 50,000 emails, and if on day 2 you send 500,000 emails, it affects your domain reputation. So your volume trend should be constant. So even if you want to grow your volumes, say from 1 million emails to 100 million emails, it should be a slow process wherein you build your IP reputation and then only increase that volume step by step. Another thing you should obviously always check are the performance metrics. You should keep checking how it bounces, open clicks, and keep removing them. You should also look at any decline and increase in any of these matrices throughout the weeks and months you're working. You can also check your reputation data, which is available via Google Postmaster or any SNDS data. And you can use third-party sources like eData Source if you need more information on how your email campaign is performing. But if you have any issues, try to solve it, and please keep checking it at least for 2 to 3 weeks so that you're constantly on top of it. I was talking about good volume trends. So this is how a good volume trend looks like. It's a slow and steady increase, and it's actually directly proportional to your IP reputation. So you can totally see this. So here is an example of a bad trend. So this is your domain reputation, which is directly gone down. And the reason is because one day you suddenly decided to send 8 million emails, even though you were probably sending 500,000 emails the other day. So as soon as you did that, your reputation goes down because the number of users you're suddenly targeting, the ISPs actually find fishy and block that trend. So that's why the domain reputation actually goes down. I think we're at the end of the session. Since we had only 30 minutes, I'll quickly recap it. Always do a basic check on your sender authentication. So those ticks should be in place. Please do use clean collection methods. Avoid buying third-party lists. Legal compliances. Another very important thing, you should know what all is allowed in terms of marketing and transactional emails within your country or within your region. Segmentation is very important. If you can create your automated segments, if that is something you have available, please do use it. Only send emails to people who need those emails or who read those emails. Sunsetting, again, a major important thing you should always practice. Remove the bad actors. So people who have marked you as spam or people who have unsubscribed, never send them emails again. Always remove them from your mailing list. Personalize your content and keep monitoring your email trends and your email matrices, like click-through rates, your domain reputation, your hard bounces, spam. If there is a negative block over there or you see a negative trend, please do look into it, create a strategy around it, and actually monitor it for 2 to 3 weeks.
Arijeet, we have one question.
Sure.
There's a person, Raudha. How does it look like to compose an email in MoEngage? Is it drag and drop or script? Can we insert a video media inside the body of the email?
Sure. So I'll actually quickly touch on it. You can actually do all the things, and just give me a second. Sure. I will just exit the template view. So if you can go to content, you talked about adding a video. You can just, and you talked about drag and drop. It's a VZ editor. So you can drag and drop, you can add HTML, you can add GIFs, you can edit your images here itself. So all those things you asked for are available on the email builder itself. I hope I could answer it here.
Great. Thank you so much, Arijeet. Thank you, Raudha, for the question. And thank you for all the questions. I once again thank our speakers, Patricia and Raymund, for gracing us with their time and insights. And thank you so much to our audience who took out time for this growth masterclass. Do follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook for more updates. We all hope to meet you soon in person too. Thank you and see you very soon.